Hey, well, tonight I'm angry about this woman, and her name is Kim Gardner. Kim Gardner is the circuit attorney in St. Louis, and Kim Gardner has just filed felony charges against this couple who you might recognize, Mark and Patricia McCloskey. Now, for those of you who've been living under a rock, what happened is that protesters broke down a gate and entered a private subdivision and were marching to the mayor's house. On the way, they passed the McCloskey's house, and the McCloskeys, feeling threatened, got their guns and stood outside their house, basically daring the protesters to attack them. The protesters did not. I believe the protesters would have done nothing to the McCloskeys, but I think the McCloskeys are within their right. If a crowd breaks down a gate, they are in the right to defend themselves or to threaten the invaders. So there's some dispute that this gate, which led to the street that the McCloskeys' house was on, which is called Portland Place, this is what the gate looked like before the event. And you can see it's a private residence. You can actually see the McCloskeys' house through the gate. This is what the gate looked like after the protesters had forced their way in. Now, you may agree with the protesters or you may not. I'm not even going to talk about whether the protesters were justified in being in this private subdivision or not. That is not what we're talking about. We're talking about whether these people, a rich white couple, and God knows the guy made his money in personal injury law. I mean, I'm sure he's not the most sympathetic character. As a matter of fact, he's not. If you look at stories about him, granted, there's, I'm sure, a smear campaign underway against him, but the guy does not seem like anything other than a litigious attorney. However, the fact is, a raving, screaming, chanting mob was on the street, the private street outside his house, and he did threaten them with guns. And I think threatening somebody with a gun when they are illegally in front of your house is legitimate. I mean, my God. Is it not? If a crowd is outside your house chanting and threatening violence, are you not entitled to threaten them in return that there'll be violence if they attempt violence on you? Well, the McCloskeys thought that they were justified, and I will go back to this woman, Kim Gardner, who has charged them with a felony. The felony is described as waving a weapon in a threatening manner. And Kim Gardner very generously offers the McCloskeys community service instead of the 4 years in jail, which she thinks they deserve. Now, the governor has offered to pardon or promised to pardon the McCloskeys if they are convicted, but the fact is that there's no reason for this incitement to be taking place. These riots were a while ago. These protesters definitely broke the law in breaking down a gate and advancing into a private subdivision. There's no action taken against them, and I'm not suggesting that there should be. This is a time for conciliation and perhaps, forgiveness. But how does that square with the way the McCloskeys are being treated? If violence is to be stopped, it can only be stopped by threatening violence in return. And since the McCloskeys were only threatening the mob, it seems that they acted in a very restrained manner. Now, I grant you that the sight of a modern rifle is a threatening sight. It's not an assault weapon, it's a rifle. It can only fire one shot every time the trigger is pulled. It is not a military weapon at all. And yet, here we are with the McCloskeys facing jail time, which the district attorney generously offers to only give them community service, I'm sure if they plead. This is ridiculous. I mean, there was a protest. It got violent. The McCloskeys threatened in return, and now they risk jail? Outrageous. Please, let's look at the situation, calm down, and wake up.